I guess, and then Alex said he's not in today.
Yeah, I think he said he's not going to make it.
All right. I will go ahead and just start. So,
Let's
welcome
get
everybody
started.
to the Goblin Gazette Games Podcast, Episode 2. Hope you're having a fantastic day. If you did not know, this is our new gaming podcast where we just talk about gaming news, what we've been playing, whatever we want to talk about, and game stuff. So, sophisticated words. But yeah, so we are the Goblin Gazette. If you didn't know, we're about a little over 2 years old. Gaming site that's kind of collected of video game news, reviews, Dungeon and Dragons guides, and more.
We hit 100,000 views.
Yes.
Either today or yesterday. I don't remember which one it was.
Somewhere in the recent past.
For some reason, people read our stuff for some reason.
Yeah, so we've been going at about 2 years strong. So this was something that I've been dreaming of long term, and just finally got around to doing it. So hope you enjoy it for the ride. Give us feedback. Be active in the chat, just to say, hey, what's up, and be a part of the conversation. So I'm Cody King Blunkers Allison. And you are?
I am Scott, a.k.a. Karthus, over on the Goblin Gazette.
And Scott started this whole thing and asked me to join very shortly after its inception. So
yes,
we've been through it all. So we'll go ahead and get started. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about some gaming news. And it was pretty cool. There's a lot of like things to come with GDC and then PAX East that happened. Both events, now that they're kind of over, I feel like they were pretty one-topic events. Like not a whole lot came out of them other than what we expected to come out of them. And so the primary and first thing that I think most people are talking about at GDC is the Google Stadia, which is Google's new gaming platform. I don't think we can call it a console because they're not selling a physical box.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I didn't know what GDC was until you said
the Game Developers Conference. So
I was like, is it games done cute? I don't know.
Game Developers Conference. So
okay,
it's less directed at necessarily like, hey, here's my new game. And it's more going to be talking about game developers and kind of their industry. So it makes sense that something like Google would come up here, the Google Stadia, which I think somebody told me it's the plural of stadium. I don't know.
Interesting.
Now your living room is a gaming stadium is what Google wants you to be.
The more you know.
So right there on their site, you can read "The future of gaming is not a box. Introducing Stadia, the new gaming platform from Google for playing AAA video games across all kinds of screens." So through the presentations and then through some of the interviews that have come out after it, it sounds like I said, it won't be a box. Like it won't be something you have to buy and attached to your TV or anything. It sounds like the idea behind it is that any device that can run a Google Chrome browser can run a AAA title game. And
so can a Chromebook? That would be interesting.
Perhaps a Chromebook. But the idea is that you don't have to download games, and like your machine won't have to carry the burden of processing the game. And that any of these Chrome-eligible devices, provided they have enough internet connection, should be able to run 4K experience at 60 frames per second as long as the display allows it. So, your phone can't run 4K because its display isn't big enough. But the burden is on Google.
That's pretty crazy. Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't even know what technology even goes into being able to do that. Like,
it's not technology, it's magic.
Is that what it is? Just in the box, they just put extra magic in it and it suddenly can run stuff for you.
There's little sprites popping out of it.
It's actually just little guys inside of it on hamster wheels. Really.
So at this point, there is no price point. It's not been announced if it's going to be a subscription plan. They haven't really discussed many games, what will be on there.
They said what, Doom?
Yeah.
Eternal.
They name dropped a few just to say, like, you can play Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
The most exciting one is the little T-Rex guy running through the desert.
Yeah.
I'm the most excited for that game.
The internet down game.
I don't even know what it's called. They had a name for it, but yeah.
Yeah, I just call it the no internet game because you only play when you have no internet.
Exactly. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how they wouldn't do a subscription-based thing similar to the Xbox Live, was whatever they call their
Game Pass.
Game Pass. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty much just going to be that. Like they'll throw a few games on there for you to be able to play whatever you want. Each month they add some new ones or get rid of some. That to me makes the most sense.
Yeah, I do too. I think what's interesting about it is, like you said, that it'll be most likely a subscription plan. That's what a lot of the rumors are going to be. That's, kind of the only thing that makes sense. Especially, it'll be interesting though, because they did kind of say, like, let's say, because they're doing it like a lot of integration into YouTube gaming, and they're trying to take that on. So us broadcasting this on Twitch, we are the enemy of Google Stadia.
Well, I remember hearing something that like someone would be able to instantly hop in your game or something like that. They were trying to really integrate that so you could engage your community, which I guess you can kind of do that in Twitch right now, right? I don't use Twitch a ton. Or am I making that up?
Twitch doesn't really have anything to where you can get into the game. Twitch will have sometimes, like, certain games will have integrations built into them. Like, I know you've mentioned the one, who is it? Vermintide, yeah. So, like, based on community chat input, you can kind of make different events happen. But that's more from the game side, and then Twitch API feeds into it. But this would be, I think it makes a lot of sense in the current ecosystem of, like, battle royales, where, say you have a private server, you could fill it up with, 98 of your viewers, and then you all, just jump in and do whatever you want to do.
And they're all just gonna hunt you down.
Yeah, just stream snipe.
It's probably what's gonna happen.
So that sounds really cool. And then another thing that they've talked about is like state sharing, like safe state sharing. Personally, I think that will be something crazy huge for speedrunning communities.
For the dumb people who don't know what that is.
Yeah.
That's not included. Is that where you can stop, like you can have it on one console and then immediately switch it to the next one? Like I could go from my phone to my computer.
I think it's beyond that to where, like, so if you play, let's say Sekiro, and I play Sekiro, and I get myself to a spot that's like really difficult.
Yeah.
I can save it, and let's say, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of like the way that like people in a Twitch chat yell at people. It's like if I'm like just bombing and Twitch is making fun of me, I can save it and share that save file with people, and they can pick it up from that exact same moment, and then I could like challenge them to beat what I couldn't beat.
Oh, that's cool. Can you go? Do you know if you can go back in time? Like if I try and do something and I die, and people are like, "Oh, you should have done this." Like, am I able to go back 30 seconds and say, "Okay, here, try that." Like, see what you would do, or is it just
something about
immediate?
That on their site, but maybe
because that would be pretty cool. You could do that. Yeah, if people are like, "Oh, you should have done this."
Yeah,
I could see it being cool, kind of challenge to be like, "Okay, why don't you try it?"
Huh. Okay. I can't find it on their site. I read it somewhere though, so I'll have to follow up on that. But what they did confirm is play across multiple devices, so laptops, desktops, phones, and tablets. It'll have integration with YouTube, so you can join your people. Again, it says 4K, 60 frames per second, as long as your device can support that. Play instantly, says no updates, no downloads, just jump right into the game. So that's really
I just realized that would open up a whole thing for Mac users.
Yeah.
Because they can run Chrome. I didn't even think about that. I mean, all the games that you can't play. I mean, that was one of the big draws of Windows, is you are able to play all these games that you can't play on Mac, because Mac games are so limited. But if it's just able to run in Chrome, doesn't matter which operating system you have.
Yeah, they're already doing this with a small audience, so I wonder if anybody's already done that. Or they weren't doing Stadia, but they were doing something else that was they're basically the lead up to this.
Yeah.
Something without a name. And then last but not least, they do have the Stadia controller, which looks just like a standard controller.
I feel like you can't improve upon the controller. If someone could improve upon it, I would be impressed. But
yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying. They said that like the 90s and early 2000s, we experimented. Nintendo's always going to do something weird. But like we had the N64 controller, and like the Sega Genesis controller was all weird.
You had the fat Xbox controllers at launch. I hated those things, man. I don't know why they were so fat, but they were so big.
But yeah, I think we're pretty much settled. Like we've decided that this is the right size for a
we just
controller.
need everyone to agree what buttons go where. Because I think there's like the X button on all the different controllers in a completely different spot.
I think, let me find it. Stadia controller.
Yeah.
I think they ABXY. So I think they're the same. Is that the same arrangement as Xbox?
So it's A is the bottom, B is on the right, Y is on top, X is on left.
Oh, I have an Xbox controller right here. Yeah. So same format as Xbox. So we have two in agreement.
Same colors. They have different colors.
Looks like all the same colors. So
nice. They did something weird in the middle, didn't they? I'm trying to remember what it was. I can look it up.
Looks like they got like maybe a screen share button, a menu, and I don't know. And then here's like the equivalent of like the Xbox controller.
Damn. Let me look it up. Oh, yeah. So they just moved. They had the two buttons at the top, which I don't know what they're doing. The little three dots and then the menu, which I guess that's pretty much what the Xbox one is. Maybe moved up a little more.
Right. And then this has parallel joysticks instead of...
Oh, that's true. I didn't notice that. Yeah. Huh.
But yeah, so it should be pretty cool. My immediate thoughts on it is the concerns that I have is that Google won't make any new games. Like, because I can't imagine a place where, like, I want this. But maybe if it saves me from having to, like, upgrade my computer, maybe that's the appeal to PC gamers.
Yeah.
But then it kind of depends on what games I get. Because I know if it's the Netflix equivalent, then at what point can I just lose a game that I previously had?
Yeah, that's kind of I mean, nowadays, I think we had talked about before, even though you own the game on Steam, you don't actually own the game.
Right.
And it's kind of basically what the Game Pass is at the end of the day. It's just more forthright with saying you don't actually own that game. It's just, we're giving you the option to play it. You don't actually own it. And I mean, nowadays, most people, I feel like you play a game, you beat it, you move on, because there's so many games to play. There's not a ton of, I mean, I replay. That's usually a multiplayer, massively a multiplayer game.
Yeah.
But like a single player game, most people are playing through once. Oh, I did it. I'm done. Move on. So it'll be interesting.
I think internet will still be a problem for a lot of people. And that'll limit what games this is fun for. So if you have any lag in, a first-person shooter, multiplayer game, you're not going to want to play it over streaming. It would be great for like solo player experiences where you don't necessarily care if you have an input lag or anything like that, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be interesting because I wonder if that'll have any impact on like ping and stuff when since it's all your internet's already having to pull us all. Is that going to give worse performance for certain people?
Right.
That would be interesting.
So we will have to figure out when the next news comes for this and what it looks like. I'm really interested for the pricing model. That's kind of the determining factor if I check it out any further than what I know.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to have to hit like a special price point because the whole idea is you don't need to buy a console or have a PC. It's got to be at a good price point, I feel like. Because with the console, it's kind of the same thing as the console. You buy it and you don't ever have to upgrade it. That's the perks of having a console. I'm curious to see what it costs.
Yeah. But moving on, Zelda had some news since we last gathered. So some cool stuff. So it was already announced before our previous episode that Link's Awakening was going to be remastered, and like remastered is not even the right word, like reimagined, and released on the Switch.
That's cool.
Here, it looks freaking adorable.
Switch. I have never played a Zelda game ever.
Not a single one.
Nope, not a single one. I just wasn't a huge Nintendo player growing up.
That'd probably do it.
Yeah. Like I had a GameCube for a little bit, but then Knights of the Republic came out and I'm like, I want an Xbox.
I've always been a huge Nintendo fan, so everything I admit, like, there's Zeldas I've skipped out on, and like there's certain ones that like I just can't like fall in love with, but
Yeah.
still a
Awakening
big fan.
was what console was that on?
Link's Awakening was on a Game Boy, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Oh
it's
wow, that is quite the reimagining.
quite the revamp. So the new art style it's moving towards is adorable. It looks like, I don't know, like a little, is it chibi? Is that the name of the art style?
I don't know what the art style is.
I don't know, but it looks really cool. So people are pretty excited about that. And then not too long ago, they announced that they had lended the Zelda IP to the company that made Crypt of the Necro Dancer. Are you familiar with this game?
I've never played it, but I've heard a lot about it.
So basically, like the grid, there's a tile grid and there's music
Mm-hmm.
playing, and you just use your arrow keys up, down, left, right.
Mm-hmm.
And by like going forward into an enemy on a certain beat, like you basically just like learn like to use the music to drive when you move. And then like every enemy has like a certain attack pattern, and you got to do it all within the beat. And so it's like a weird music adventure game. And they announced that Nintendo has let the Zelda IP go to this company to make a Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring The Legend of Zelda that will be called The Cadence of Hyrule.
Interesting.
So,
Well, because I've not played a lot of Zelda. Isn't what the Ocarina of Time was? Was a little flute or something like that?
Yep. So the Ocarina of Time's a flute. Music has always been a part of a lot of the Zelda games. In Wind Waker, you like conduct the wind, and that's how you like summon certain spells. Like different things do different things. So in Ocarina of Time, you have a song that like makes it rain, and you need that for certain points in the game, or you can use it to make you teleport around the map. And a lot of those songs have been like really iconic that stick around with people. So
Gotcha.
makes sense that you put a music game in that sense. But
Yeah, that's pretty cool that they're lending out that IP. It would be interesting. I like that concept would be very cool to see. Because people have different styles, and I saw someone on Reddit was talking about what if like Bethesda handed out the Fallout IP to someone else? Like, what could they do?
right.
And I'm assuming Nintendo keeps quite a bit of cut of that, or is getting paid a crap ton of money or something.
Nintendo historically has been very, very protective of its IPs. So even YouTubers had to buy a special license to cover anything Nintendo related.
That's crazy.
Like you would just get hard struck real quick. And so if you wanted to cover Nintendo things on YouTube, you had to buy a special license. And it was only recently that they let up on that and just said anybody can use our content for YouTube creators. And
It's free marketing at this point.
Yeah. And a lot of people have suspected that the reason why they're not motivated to make their online like chat systems and there's no voice chat in a lot of their games is because like they don't want little kids corrupted. Like nobody's confirmed that at Nintendo, but it's like a theory that like Nintendo's just protecting the innocence. And they've always just like done things their own way. Like they easily could make more money or make a better game in some sense, but they just say, I'm Nintendo, I'm going to do it this way. So we'll talk more about other potential ways that people could follow that same suit. But it is really significant that a very, very small indie company is working on a game with the biggest IP or one of the biggest IPs ever known to video games.
Well, it's interesting because it's kind of like I feel like a pride point oftentimes because like you don't want to give it to them because like what if they do better than us? Like it's a bit of a pride point where to be able to say, okay, take this IP and do something with it. Because at that point you're saying it's bigger than us. Like we aren't, Zelda. So you take it and you do what you can with it and make it fun. So I think that's really cool. It would be crazy to see what other companies could do stuff with other IPs. Just kind of that possibility to do that. That would be very cool.
Yeah. And then the last bit of Zelda news is Monolith Soft, I believe is the name of the company. They had job requisitions out for a new Zelda project. So this company is typically known for their work in the Xenoblade Chronicles. I've never played them, but I know they're...
I don't know what that is either.
They have a character from their game in Smash Bros, if that helps you. But
No,
No.
I played Smash. I've played the new one like 5 matches with you, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. So the studio is known for Xenoblade, but they have contributed on 2 previous Zelda games, one of them being Breath of the Wild. So people are just kind of assuming that the new big Zelda game is in the works, and it sounds like in the meantime they're just going to keep us busy with some of these smaller.
I mean, they're have been pretty spaced out, right? Zelda games. Like I feel like the last one before Breath of the Wind was quite some time.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild.
Wild. See, I don't play, so I don't know. Breath of the Wild. I was
Yeah,
gonna say
so,
Wild. I'm like, it's Wind or Wild.
There was Twilight Princess, which came out on GameCube and Wii. It actually released for both. And then Skyward Sword came out, and I think that was Wii.
So that was the last one.
Yeah, and then
so there's no one for Wii U.
I don't think so. There were like Zelda related games, and they did Wind Waker in HD. So there were Zelda things. It just wasn't a mainline game. And then they have 3DS games all the time for Zelda as well. Not all the time, but more frequently.
No, I've not played Zelda, but my understanding is that Zelda, it's like a cycle. Like it's never the same guy. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like Zelda's just an idea. He's not, or I'm sorry. Link is just an idea. Is not the actual it's not the same Link every single time. It's a different Link.
There's this crazy Zelda timeline where it's like basically you start with one of the games and you get to this point and it creates like 3 alternate universes. And then this series of games are if the good guy won. And then this series of games is if the bad guy won. And then this third series is like if because in some of the early games you change from an adult to a child. And so some of them like factor on like this would be the timeline if he never turned back into an adult, or I don't even know what it is, but is
that the one where he's like a little bitty kid? I see pictures all the time where he looks like a tiny kid.
Yeah. So Wind Waker, he's a kid. At the beginning of Ocarina of Time, he's a kid. There's a few of them where he's young Link.
Gotcha.
So yeah, their timeline's crazy. So it sounds like we'll have another main game. Breath of the Wild is a lot of people's favorite games these days, and it did a lot of cool things. Looks fun. So it'll be interesting to see. Because as good as it was, it had some shortcomings. So it was really fun just to explore in that game. And so just from the exploration standpoint, it was really fun. But I think what's odd is the piece that people were disappointed in was the Zelda pieces. So like Zelda normally has some like really cool dungeons and some items that are kind of like gadgety, and it didn't have that. Like there's not any really good dungeons, and so it'll be interesting to see if they kind of keep the Breath of the Wild format or if they go back to something more classic or what.
Yeah, that will be interesting.
So we will see. Next bit of news is Valve is making a VR headset called the Valve Index.
I was looking at that because I must have completely missed that announcement. Well, it was like a leak. Like it was on Steam, but they hadn't actually announced it yet.
Yeah, and even like their webpage just says upgrade your experience May 2019. So
yeah,
we have virtually no information on it, but it's pretty interesting just because like everybody who's playing VR games on PC is playing it through Steam.
But they're using a different company's VR set, not Steam. So
right, and I don't know if there's an official partnership between Steam and HTC, who makes the Vive, but it seemed that like I think you could buy the Vive through Steam for at least a small portion of time, but
yeah.
It is an ecosystem where a lot of people are trying to make their own headsets. So Oculus Rift, who is now owned by Facebook, and HTC Vive, those are kind of the big two. And then recently the Windows, I don't even know what they call theirs. It's like the mixed reality something. They got a weird name. That's kind of on the rise. People are picking that up quicker and quicker.
Who is that by?
Windows.
Oh, okay.
And so
I zoned out there for a second. My screen did something weird. It had like a little black box.
Have you ever played anything in VR?
The only other thing I've ever done in VR, I would love to do VR stuff, but My brother-in-law had a phone, so he had the phone set up, but that
Okay.
was it, which isn't computer game. It was just a phone game, basically. I was in a haunted house with a creepy little girl who's following me around.
Okay.
It was creepy, but I would love to get a VR headset because that would be so much fun.
Yeah, the price point is so hard to get behind. So
Yeah.
I just rebuilt my PC, and that was enough of like, I don't like spending this much money, but I'm gonna do it
Hmm.
anyway. And now I have a machine that could easily run VR, but I have to spend another $1,000. So
Is that how much it costs? 1,000 for like HTC
um,
Vive?
the HTC Vive, they have a Pro version that's supposed to be like better than the last one, and to buy the Pro version and all like the cameras so that you can
Hmm.
like have a full room experience, it's just over $1,000.
Oh my lord.
And so I think Oculus and some of these other companies are going cheaper, but it's
Yeah.
still not like, because it's the same problem you have with the console. So, say the PS5 comes out, you got to buy the $500 machine and the $60
Yeah.
games. And
Yeah.
the problem with VR is there's not games that are kind of worth it yet. Like a lot of people are still
Yeah.
trying to craft the art of a VR
Except
game.
Sword and Sorcery.
I've
Have
seen
you
some
seen that
good
game?
ones.
I want to get that. That was the game where I was trying to show you a video, and for whatever reason I could not get service. Like it's like this VR game, and you're just in a stadium, and they're just guys who are coming at you from all sides. And like I was watching a guy do like John Woo stuff, where he like has a spear and he's like flipping it in the air, like knocking guys over, and just it was awesome. I'm like, I want that game.
That's awesome. Yeah, that in Beat Saber seems cool. I've actually played a little bit with our friend Jordan's VR headset, who actually
Mm.
develops on his now. Um, and I played. There's a game that's free on Steam just called like The Lab, and they're just like a couple
Hmm.
mini games just to, like demonstrate what it can do. And it was really fun, and I think it's really cool. I don't know, like I really want it. I can't spend that money on it.
Yeah, it's expensive. Well, that and yeah, I think they were saying for the Steam index or whatever it is, like there's no earpiece or something. Was one of the weird design features of it, which I've not used a VR set, but I guess that's a big part of the design. So it covers up your ears, so you're fully immersed.
Yeah, so with the Vive, the first version was just a headset, and then they sold like adapters.
Hmm.
So you could buy like a microphone adapter, you could buy a headphone adapter. So because off the back of this thing, you have all these wires, coming off that have
Oh,
to go to your computer. So they're correcting these issues, and that's why like the Pro version has some of this built in, like it's a
gotcha.
Bluetooth connection or a Wi-Fi connection, so you don't have to
Hmm.
have cords, or so they're improving on it continually with every one. It's just they haven't brought the price down yet. Like it's not
Yeah.
widely available to all consumers yet.
Hmm.
But it was really cool. I definitely don't think I had the kind of immersion where like I knew I was like I felt like I was totally in a video game.
Hmm.
Like obviously I knew I was in Jordan's living room or Jordan's basement, but it's kind of like that thing. It's if like you're playing Pin the Tail and the Donkey, where I'm playing and I'm being aware that I took a few steps in Jordan's living room, but then all of a sudden I'm like at the couch and I thought I was on the other
Hmm.
side of the the
Yeah.
house. So
Yeah.
there's some weird things, and they'll have to iron those things out. But I think like the cameras get better, the sensors get better, the controllers, like the hand controllers.
Hmm.
I think Vive is working on. They call them like knuckles. So the idea is that like
Gloves.
yeah, you'd be able to like sense every bend of a joint, whereas right now you kind of play with like just two sticks.
Yeah. That would be really cool. Basically, there's gonna be a point where you just get into a suit, and it's gonna be
Ready
oh
Player
god,
One.
I'm blanking. Yes, pretty much.
You
Well,
gotta
I
log
was
in.
gonna say, what's the stupid thing where they're driving the cars and it leaves the little trailer on Tron?
Oh yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Tron. But yes, Ready Player One as well.
So it'll be very cool, well, interesting, and I think good for the VR space if Valve can make a successful piece of hardware and kind of like fight the market, because
Yeah,
more competition, they'll have to make it cheaper, and then we can buy them and not feel like we're billionaires.
exactly.
Following up on another story from last time, Gearbox did have their well anticipated announcements at PAX East. Borderlands 3 is confirmed. Everybody knew it was coming. It's just kind of now official.
And it's not a battle royale, which I think a lot of people were worried about.
I think everybody's afraid of their favorite franchise turning into a battle royale now.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's what happened with oh my gosh, I'm forgetting everything. So what is the Titanfall?
Oh yeah, it became Apex.
I mean, it seems like Apex is doing well. So, but yeah, if you're a hardcore Titanfall fan, probably let down by that.
Yeah, Battlefield 5 had their they announced their BR mode pretty early on.
Really?
It had a BR mode? It just finally came out, and like people don't care. Like,
yeah, I mean that's kind of what happened with the Blackout. Was that the Call of Duty one?
Yeah.
Like I've not heard. I heard a ton of people building it up, and then it came out. It just
I think Blackout
like
is doing okay on consoles, from what I hear from streamers, but on PC, I don't think there's enough people playing it. So the queues don't even the lobbies don't even fill up.
I guess does Apex have the? I guess actually it's Fortnite probably has the bigger slice of the pie still.
Yep, I think Apex took a lot of the traffic for a hot second, and then Fortnite had a new season start and kind of gained back most of their people.
A lot of people.
And it's probably, a combination. Like it's probably people jump between them and, split time with it. But yeah. But anyway, so Borderlands 3 is confirmed. Also a remastered game, Borderlands 1.
Saw that.
And I don't know. I didn't do a very good job. I think that's coming to the Switch, which is kind of a big deal because, again,
it is?
Nintendo is putting very gritty, not typically Nintendo games on their platform, which I think is fine. I think it's the parents' job to dictate that. Let me as the consumer
their children are watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think one of the things I saw about Borderlands was it might be a Epic Store exclusive. Yeah. Because it leaked today. I think it wasn't supposed to actually release the date, but it's in September, I think, is when it's coming out. And so I think a lot of people were concerned about that because the president of Gearbox, or I don't know who the guy was saying he likes the competition. He doesn't see an issue with it. And to me, it kind of seemed like he was missing the point that people were upset with. But not a huge fan of it.
I think I want the game developers to pick what's better for them, because if the game developers are happy, then they're going to make more games. I don't have an issue with downloading things on the Epic Store, but I don't use it for anything other than the few times I played Fortnite. So it's not something go into and check. So it's not winning me over unless it forces me to go in, which just feels kind of shady from that sense. And I think just a lot of people just have a long time love of Valve. It's got its issues, and they've kind of been stagnant in some of what they do, in some people's opinion. But at the same time, it's Valve. We've spent so much money and they give us so many sales. How do we just betray them? So if it makes Valve better by having to, step up their game, then that's good too.
Yeah, I guess part of my problem with it is to me, it's not actually competition. It's the best way I can describe it is if you live in a town with one, market where you're going to, oh my dude, I cannot say words. I'm struggling today to say words. One supermarket, okay, and that place sells chicken. That's the only place you can get chicken from. And then so they can raise the price, they can inflate it if they want because there's no competition. But then this other company comes in and they're like, oh, we're gonna buy up all the chicken so only we can sell the chicken. That's not competition. You've not created competition. All you've done is you've just bought it out. So now the
chicken.
Yeah, now the other store, there's no competition. It's still the exact same problem where there's only one person who owns it. And that, to me, that's the problem with some of these games. With Borderlands, it's going to go straight to Epic, and there's actually no competition there between Borderlands on Epic or Steam. Because that's the idea. I would imagine they're going to fight over prices per game.
Right.
And if one person has the game and the other one doesn't, well, that's not competition. You've just basically said it's mine, you can't have it. And that does not help the consumer whatsoever. But if it was, on both platforms, then they would be fighting over who's going to be cheaper, and that does help the consumer. So that's my frustration with it. That and downloading another launcher, which I don't really want to do.
Yeah. I think it could come into question where you have to worry about like multiplayer. So if we did have a world where you could buy the same game on both platforms, how do you guys play together? Like, can those platforms talk to each other? I would think they could, because you're ultimately using the game server and not the Epic server. Think so. But inviting people through the Epic launcher versus inviting them through Steam, friends, profiles, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine it would work, because even with Fortnite, you can play cross-platform, right? Or am I making that up? Yeah, and I would imagine like Xbox doesn't have a Fortnite launcher. That's just
you do log into an Epic account on top of your.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you have to log into your.
I'm sure it works still. I'm sure there's a way they can figure it out.
Smart people. We Happy Few did announce a DLC, so people were kind of right there. Risk of Rain 2, that's probably the most out of left. Well, no, the next thing is the most out of left field. But Risk of Rain was a really fun 2D platformer. It was like very, very difficult. I guess a little bit roguelike. But there's only like 4 stages. And you could play multiplayer, and it was just kind of like you fight big monsters and that type of deal. So Risk of Rain 2 came out. It's early access. You can play it and buy it right now, but it's like a 3D sequel. So it's first person. So they've taken the concept and just put it in 3D. It looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, again, that's a game that I have not played. I don't get around when it comes to games.
And then we had Tiny Tina's Claptrap themed card game.
I did see that. Was it a card game, or was it a? I just read tabletop game, and I always just assumed
tabletop card game.
Oh, okay. I was just assuming it's an RPG if it says tabletop. So that was interesting.
So this is the description. You are cordially invited to a tea party of the most claptastic variety. What do vault hunters do over tea? And mess with Claptrap, of course. All of your favorite Claptraps are here to ridicule. We've got pirates and sheriffs, wizards and gentlemen. Dive in some dumpsters, swipe some parts, and build your bot. Race to be the first one to get to your Clappy decked out with the right parts to win.
That sounds fun.
So, yeah, whatever, Gearbox, I guess.
Because Claptrap was, like, to me, one of the most iconic things out of the Borderlands franchise. Like, it was just such a fun character.
Yeah. Like that and the Psychos is, like, what I think of when I play.
Yeah, the Psychos, yeah.
So I don't know where that came from, but it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, why not? You have an IP like that that people are gonna buy. Like, I knew a guy who picked up the Fallout. It was basically, what was that game that you had where it's basically D&D, but they plan it all out for something Haven or Gloomhaven, yeah. And so apparently Fallout came with that, but it's just Fallout instead of Gloomhaven. And like, I knew a guy who picked it up just because it was Fallout.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can make money just for slapping something on it.
I remember like when I was little, I wanted Nintendo Monopoly. It's like same exact game. There's just a Yoshi on the board.
Yeah, there you go. But as a kid, you're like, but I have to have it. It's Yoshi.
So yeah, that was kind of the big news from Gearbox. They had a few other things for some of their other IPs or collaborating with some other small studios and other games, but nothing I care about. Something I do care about is Yacht Club Games. They made Shovel Knight, which again is one of my favorite games of all time. Not only do they have more Shovel Knight DLC coming, but they have a new game. So I guess starting with Shovel Knight news, I mentioned it last week when we were talking about our favorite games. So if you bought this game, over time you got access to additional campaigns. Like you got to play through an entire new campaign
for free.
For free.
Oh, that's why
as one of the bosses from the original campaign.
Oh, that's cool.
So the way this game works is in the base campaign, you're Shovel Knight, and you go around and you have to defeat all the other knights, and all of them have like knight names. So the first DLC that came out, the second campaign is Plague Knight, and so he kind of like looks like the plague doctors and he throws like little potion bombs, and he kind of has like these chemicals. The second DLC and third campaign you could play was Spectre of Torment, where you played as Spectre Knight, and then now they're having King of Cards, which you get to play as King Knight, which is a goofy name.
So is it like just the same levels, your different character? Or it's a whole new.
You basically end up going through the same themed levels, but they have to change it because these characters operate fundamentally differently.
Gotcha.
So Shovel Knight, he basically can jump, and then one of his core mechanics is he can pogo. So like he puts a shovel down and he pogos off things. Whereas the Spectre Knight, he does this thing where he can kind of cut diagonally through people. So the levels were redesigned in a way to make him be able to like combo those diagonal cuts to like traverse upward.
And so who are you fighting as a boss then? Are you fighting Shovel Knight?
They have different campaigns. So I think you end up fighting all the bosses, and there's a plot. I just don't pay attention to it. I'm sure it's very good. Yeah. But yeah, so they all have their own plot, which is pretty interesting. And so this will be the fourth campaign, again, all for free. And then as well, they are announcing Shovel Knight Showdown, which is just like a battle mode.
It's a BR. It's Shovel Knight BR.
More like a small arena, but who knows? So same company I love, who does lots of really cool things like free DLCs that give you countless more time, they're releasing a game called Cyber Shadow. They're seeming to stick to the same thing where they're taking a very old art style. So it's very much still in the 8-bit art style, almost would look like an NES game or maybe a Sega Genesis game. But obviously a lot more pixels and a lot more detail. But just kind of like a crazy fast-paced, chaotic platformer. So I'm very excited for that, and definitely will be picking it up.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. And last but not least, Dead Cells has a DLC. Dead Cells was a very successful indie game from last year, and that DLC is out now, called Rise of the Giant. So,
which one was Dead Cells? I'm trying to remember.
It's a Metroidvania roguelike type deal. So the levels are randomly generated, and you just kind of fight your way through a castle and try to get to the end.
Are you robots in that one, or am I making that up? That might be a different game.
You're making that up.
Okay, that's a different game then.
Yeah. So, lots of cool indie news. There was some news about Nintendo. There have been some pretty highly watched indie games that are finally getting close. One of them, they're all going to be out on the Switch, and so Nintendo's highlighted them as like very cool indie games. One of them is called My Friend Pedro, and it's like this weird, like, physics murder game. I don't know what to call it, but so it's like you'll ride like a skateboard, and you just jump up in the air, and then like you can like shoot a frying pan at somebody and then kick your skateboard at somebody else. And so it's
you a banana?
The banana is your friend Pedro.
Oh, blood bullets bananas. What?
So it looks crazy. Let's see if I can find like a GIF. It's very small. But yeah, it's kind of like, in my mind, it's like setting up like crazy like Jason Bourne like action sequences.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like you kind of bust into a room and
just do something crazy.
Stuff. Yeah. That looks fun.
So that should be pretty cool. And then My Katana Zero will be another one. Which is,
you said that's coming out on Switch, you said?
Yeah, so it's been very big for Nintendo to get kind of the support of these indie developers.
I was going to say it because it looks violent.
Yeah. Again, Nintendo's grown up, I guess.
They're like, hey, man, there's lots of money to be had in violence.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are all the news topics I had. Anything you specifically were thinking of?
What was it? Anything you cut out for 1 second? Anything I'm specifically thinking of?
Yeah.
No, not really. I don't know if you had a topic to talk about. I had just thought of one I thought it might be funny to talk about.
So I was gonna let us expand on the idea you actually brought up earlier, of the possibility of people sharing their IP.
Yeah. Okay.
And so to your point, it's like what could we do? You know, everybody looks at Bethesda and Fallout 76 and just kind of destroyed it. Like Fallout 4 was okay for a lot of people. Fallout 76 was not okay for most people. And so it's like they took a beloved franchise and they just didn't do a very good job with it. So it's like
it was a cash grab.
Yeah. At what point do they just give that to somebody else and let them do something with it? Because I don't think people trust them anymore. And so like those are ideas where it's like, what could we do if you take these, you know, huge monumental, you know, ideas to give them to somebody else, or even just to pick on Bethesda? Like, what if you took Skyrim and gave somebody like, you know, a home decorating game out of it? Like the possibilities are just like crazy endless, where you know, you could give some crazy, you know, little indie studio the rights to make something amazing that, you know, you're locked into something because you have funders and investors who expect something out of you. But an indie game studio, you can invest in them and just let them, you know, kind of toy around with it.
That's kind of what I was saying, where it's a point of pride where you reach a point where you're like, okay, this is beyond, like, we don't own, they take Fallout, like for that, it's like, we don't own Fallout. Like, this is the fans thing. So let's see what, you know, what can it become? It's not about a sense of pride, like, well, we can do it better. Because, you know, each studio does things well. Like Bethesda, they do a great job of making a world feel alive. Like, that's one of the reasons that Skyrim is so much fun, is you walk into a town and people are doing their own thing completely separate of you, and you just so happen to meet them at some point in their life that something's going on. Because, like, I mean, the combat's fun in Skyrim. Like, yeah, it's fun to hack people, but there's nothing groundbreaking about that combat system. You know, same thing with like Bungie. Like, they're great at shooters. Like, you know, they do a great, whatever their secret formula they have for shooters, it works really well. But clearly, when it comes to story, they struggle and stuff like that. So, you know, you could take someone like, you know, you could take the Skyrim or Fallout IP and you could give it to someone who maybe they do really good, I don't know, combat system or something. I guess that's was what was kind of cool about Fallout, but you get the idea.
Right.
Someone who's good at something else and give them an opportunity to expand on your game, but in the area that they're good with.
Yeah. And I even thought of it in terms of back in like the 90s, and I don't know if you played a lot of these, but like we had and even early 2000s, we had licensed games all the time. Like, if you remember, every time a Disney movie came out, there would be like some really shitty,
oh my gosh,
GameCube game of like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and like you basically just play through like an off-brand version of the same plot. And so
exactly.
But back in the 90s, they were really good. Like the Lion King game on SNES is really good. There's a Toy Story game that came out in that era, and like a lot of these are really good. DuckTales is an amazing game.
I never played that one. But I mean, like the Lord of the Rings game, I know it was in the 90s, but the Lord of the Rings games were fantastic.
Yeah.
And like that
Legitimately
kind
good
of
games.
You like hack and slash, just kind of, it was kind of RPG-ish hack and slash. But yeah, those games are great, and like the Lord of the Rings ones are fantastic. And yeah.
So it just makes me think like we very rarely have seen successes of games go to TV or video or movies. Like the Dragon Ball Z live action, I guess that was the show.
Warcraft was one that went
Warcraft
game
did not
to movie.
land well. I never actually saw it.
I actually enjoyed the movie. Like, I mean, it could have just been because I was a Warcraft fanboy, so just being able to see Warcraft on the screen might have been good enough for me. But I mean, I liked it. There were things they changed that I wasn't a huge fan, but I understood why they had to change parts of it. Yeah.
And then there's been really cool things like Spider-Man video game came out last year, and people loved it. You know, and Marvel, I guess Marvel themselves have had trouble with Spider-Man movies just based on like weird ownership rights between Sony and themselves. But it is crazy when we think about like how certain people can just do something better, and if there's like a level of I don't know, people just kind of have to get over themselves. If there's the idea that like as the artist, we should just be like video game players as artists should just say like give it to somebody else because they can do it better. But then there's a business aspect to it where it's like, I can't just give up my secret formula. You know, this is my baby, and you know, if somebody else can do it better, then they don't need us.
Yeah, I mean that kind of goes back to the pride thing. I think, especially if you have like investors and people, it's like you're giving out, Fallout to another developer. Are you not going to make any more Fallout games? Like, what's the deal? Yeah, I can definitely see that being a problem, but yeah, again, it comes down to that. It's an art form, so this guy can make it look different. It's still the same game, but it looks different, and they did something better than we can do.
Yeah. And some recent successes, I think a lot of people were, for the most part, okay with Telltale Games when they did that with a lot of franchises.
Yeah.
So they did it with Borderlands, they did it with Walking Dead, they did it with Game of Thrones.
They had like a werewolf.
Yeah, The Wolf Among Us. So they did a really good job with a lot of those, and most people were happy.
They crapped out, didn't they?
Yeah, their problem was they oversaturated their own market.
Is that what? Oh yeah, because they also did Game of Thrones, I think, too.
Yeah, they made too many of their own games, and people just kind of got over them. Like they just need to kind of space them out.
Same thing. Yeah.
But yeah, that was like an overnight closure.
Kicking yourself over the head. Put yourself out of work.
So there's been a lot of really cool things, but I think it'd be so cool. And there have been times where like I just want to see more experimentation with IPs. So like Halo's amazing, and I think by Halo 4 everybody's pretty tired of the formula and they needed something different. And that's why I appreciate, like, even though I know you personally loved Halo Wars, or at least you played it. It was fun. But I liked that experimentation, or even like ODST. It's like, fine, you're not Master Chief. Like, let's just do something different. And that's what I just kind of want to see. And I think it's hard because that's what like Fallout 76 was. It was something different, but it sucked. So
yeah,
there's a line between like you appreciate it for doing something different, but you also have to not suck at it.
It's got to be good enough for people to like. I think if Fallout 76 came out, it was $20. I think it would have gotten a lot less hate than it would have. But it was a fact of a $60 game, and I mean, I've not played it. Everything I've read, it just is terrible. It's missing so much. They basically took all the things that make a Fallout game, and removed them.
Yeah. I thought my favorite headline about Fallout 76 was the bots that they tried getting rid of. Did you hear about this?
No, what was it?
So I guess there were bots, or just kind of people spam trading in this game, and so they decided the way to weed out the bots was to look at accounts who have traded a certain amount of times with other players, and if you were over a certain threshold, you just automatically got banned. And what happened is you ended up banning the most dedicated people who actually liked your game. So they did get rid of the bots, but they actually got rid of the few people who actually want to play their game.
Yeah.
So it's just that's a nightmare. But I mean, I think it'd be super cool to see more franchise games done well. So
Star Wars.
Yeah, like you're a huge Star Wars fan. EA's kind of crapped out with their opportunity there.
I need to take a second. It's ridiculous. They've had that franchise for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years maybe.
And they have what, 3 years left?
They've made, I think so. And they've made 2 games. They made Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2.
Neither apparently they were very well received.
No, well, Battlefront 2, after all the loot box controversy, they at least included a single player campaign, which a lot of people were complaining about was not in the first one. But apparently they're still updating Battlefront 2, which I guess is good. I don't actually know how long it's been since it came out, but they're supposed to be announcing another Star Wars game this month, actually. But like I heard they canceled another one they had in production, so it's basically just this other one.
Yeah,
it's like, how can you have a game for? Because there's this picture going on the internet, and it's like within the same amount of time that EA has released these 2 games, it was like 10 Star Wars games were released in the exact same amount of time. And it's just because
the 2000s, you're saying?
Yeah, it was like when Republic Commando came out, Knights of the Republic. They all came out with like within a 7-year span of each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, it's just I don't know. It's annoying because I feel like it's a lot about money for people. For Disney, it's and EA, it's oh, we'll pay you a ton of money. You get the license for this, and we get a ton of money from your sales, instead of just giving it out to people to be able to do whatever they want with it. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's kind of annoying.
In kind of light of that news, I think you posted a link to it on our Discord, the Schmiegel game.
Yes.
So I have to let me double check myself. I thought I heard somebody say that the company that's making that is known for point and click adventures.
Yes, I think I had read that as well.
So like that's just so like somebody was saying it's like this is the spinoff we never asked for.
It's one of those things that like if you're like me and you're a Lord of the Rings game, you'll want to play it just because any opportunity you get to be in Middle Earth, you will take that opportunity.
Yeah.
Kind of like Star Wars fans. Any moment they have to be in the Star Wars universe, they will take that opportunity to be in the Star Wars universe. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting. It certainly isn't the game that you would expect with all the wealth of opportunity you have with Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth. Just doing a Shmi Gollum game is just very interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many like bright minds out there who, because if you think about like, I know I talk about it a lot on our blog and stuff, is like if you think about mod communities, it's like it's so crazy how some of these people end up making really good games out of just assets. So like Portal 2 is still living on through community map levels. And so it's like if you kind of take that community of people, small teams who are just like passionate and want their chance at stardom, and just say like, sure, you can use this superhero, or use our movie license, or take our game license and make something weird with it. People, I'm not a plot person. I'm not a universe person. So like Marvel movies, I'm out. I can't watch it. I don't have time for 45 movies. Like I don't care to have immersion, and I think a lot of people get like really scared whenever somebody's messing with like what's canon.
Yeah.
And I just don't have that. Like I'd rather have a fun game.
Yeah. Well, I think like with the Lord of the Rings series, because again, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. It just because I want to. I haven't gotten around to playing the Shadow of War. I played Shadow of Mordor a crap ton. I just never picked up Shadow of War. I intend to play it, but I know that game they messed with the plot quite a bit, and people were like, "This completely goes against something in the book," but I don't care because I just get an opportunity to play a Lord of the Rings game.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting because sometimes people are like, "No, I don't want this. You've completely ruined the entire franchise." And I'm sure there are people who are big Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth fans who feel that way. But I know for myself, it's like, in Shadow of War, there's this guy who he's a wraith and he can take control of orcs. And you're like, okay, that can't happen. That doesn't really happen in the lore. But I'm fine with that just so because, Lord of the Rings is such a rich opportunity there. There's so much to be able to do with a video game. And it just having the opportunity to do it, you don't really care what they're messing with.
Yeah. It's totally something where, I don't need an explanation for why I'm a certain person doing certain things, because
I do.
But I mean, so we talked about the Zelda multiverse. It kind of makes no sense to me at all. And I play through those games, and those are games that don't have like crazy deep plots in the game themselves. There's a lot surrounding it, and like in the old games, there was like lore in the handbook that came with it.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I'm playing, I beat Ganon for the billionth time. It's like that's all I need. Like I need the formula of like Zelda, or Link is gonna help Zelda defeat Ganon. It's like that's all I need. And it's like you can put it whatever universe. I don't care where it falls in the timeline.
That's so funny because like when I was playing Dark Souls, I had to go read the Dark Souls lore so that I understood what was going on.
Is there actually good lore there?
It's pretty interesting. It's very different from anything else that I've ever encountered. But like, because at the end of Dark Souls 3, there's basically like 4 different endings based on, and I've not beat it yet, but I'm working toward one. But like I started going down a path unknowingly, unknowing that it was bad, and I had to restart. Some people would think that was dumb. I had to restart because I'm like, I can't do that. I can't be the bad guy. So yeah, I have to get into it. I can't just play a game. I have to understand what's going on.
One of the few games where I felt, where there's choice matters and I really cared about what path I took was Fable 3. Like, I just, I knew.
Are you the one that said you thought that you only had so many real life days? Or was that someone else?
So it was Jordan, our friend Jordan. Because the timing of like when you go save, it doesn't pass. It's not like 1 day passes or 1 year passes every time. It's like the first time it's 2 days. The next time it's like 400 days.
Yeah.
And Jordan thought that it correlated with how fast he played the game. So then he started speedrunning the game. What I did is, because they tell you like, what is it? You have like 400 days to, the final decision. And my counter said it was like day like 356. And I was like, that seems like we're pretty far along. I wonder how much longer we have. And I looked it up and I was on the last day. Like if I were to save one more time, it would just end the game.
Yeah.
And so I had made all of the good decisions. So we were like crazy far in debt.
Yeah.
So for like 4 days in real life, I just played Loot Hero and just got money so that I could pay off all the debt. So I did all the good things and paid off all the debt.
That's awesome. So yeah, I did the same thing. I just went into it with a ton of money because I knew, I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to pay a crap ton of money. So I'm going to make a ton and then just shovel it all out so I could do all the good stuff. But yeah, that one was fun. That Fable, I'm sad they never came. I know they came out with a Fable Heroes or Legends or something like that. Yeah. But apparently it sucked because it was just a cash grab. But Fable games are so much fun. I don't know. I guess it was kind of that simulator type game because I have never played like Animal Crossing, any simulator games. But I guess Fable kind of was like that because you could buy property and you could work and stuff.
And there are other games like, so Grand Theft Auto has similar mechanics where you can buy real estate and, make money off of it. And so I think there's aspects of it that kind of do play to that simulation, but at the same time, you still had an action combat game.
Yeah.
And it always had really good collectibles, and it was like finding all the gnomes was so hard.
Yes. Well, Fable 3 had the, was it the gnomes or the gargoyles?
I think gnomes was 2, gargoyles I think was 3.
Yeah. And they would just insult you.
Yeah.
The entire. Yeah, Fable 3 had a lot of cool stuff. Like your guns would actually morph based off decisions you had made, I think.
You'd also get fat for eating food.
You would get fat for eating food. You would get STDs for sleeping around with people. If you were evil, you'd grow horns and stuff. But yeah, that was a fun game. I'm sad that, because I think that studio, did they close down? It was like Lionhead Studio, I think.
I mean, there was a Microsoft exclusive.
Because, yeah, weren't they owned by Microsoft? We're both looking it up now, Lionhead Studio. Because I thought they closed down.
April 2016.
Yep. It's sad. Fable games were fun.
Yeah, but that's one thing I'm excited for is to see what Microsoft does. I know they're coming out with Ori sequel, Ori and the Blind Forest 2, except for it's not called Blind Forest. It's like Ori and the Will of the Wisp. So that'll be a good game. But it'll be interesting because they'll have their Xbox, and then they're seeming to bleed more into PC, and then, they're giving Halo to PC, the Master Chief Collection. So,
yeah, well, it definitely seems like Microsoft's trying to do the cross-play stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, in this day and age, it's just silly not to do that sort of thing. So it seems like they're moving that direction.
So it'll be interesting. I have a PS4. Mostly it's a Netflix machine. I loved God of War. It was amazing. I'm going to get around to Kingdom Hearts 3, and then I want to do Last of Us and Horizon Zero Dawn. Those are the other big like PlayStation titles. But like I haven't seen a Microsoft title that, like, I know they have Titanfall, and I think that's probably what they got. I think that's it. And then if you like racing, they have Forza.
Yeah, Microsoft doesn't have much. They have Gears of War. I don't know if you said that, so I was distracted.
Oh yeah.
Naughty said a while ago that I wasn't coming through his right ear. I'm sorry if you're still there.
There's a stereo setting we can tweak, but
my bad.
It's all good.
I'll just talk really loud to compensate.
But that's kind of all the topics I had. I definitely wish we could see more people branch out with franchises, because I think too often we just see a franchise like go away, like Fable. So it's like, maybe Lionhead's gone, but what if, somebody else could pick it up and just run with it?
Yeah.
Because then you have other things. Blaster Master, do you know anything about that?
No, I don't.
It's a really old NES game, and they're announcing a new title. Like, they made a new title a few years ago, and it's kind of funny because it's basically the same game. Like, just new. So it's like there's some people have like a key to success, and all you got to keep doing is that same thing.
Just keep doing it over and over again. Yeah.
And then there's other people where it's like, I don't know. Like, I've never played Final Fantasy, any of them, and so it's like I don't understand the hype, why that's still around.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But it's so crazy.
The giant chicken chocobo things, whatever they're called.
Yeah, chocobos.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We don't know what we're talking about.
No, we don't. I've played one Final Fantasy game. It was Tactics on my Game Boy. That's it. It was a fun game.
Yeah. Closest to Final Fantasy is Smash Bros. Because Cloud's in it now. Well, I guess I've also played Kingdom Hearts, which has Final Fantasy characters in it. So
there you go.
That's probably closer, but.
All right. Well, cool.
That is all I have. I think from a housekeeping perspective, I think we're kind of settling on the idea of every other week.
Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes we'll have 3 people. Sometimes we'll have 2. Sometimes we might have more. Who knows? But if you're watching and you have ideas of topics we should cover, any kind of feedback, just let us know through our Discord, our Twitter, or anything else. And we'll work on kind of making
Half-Life, by the way.
Oh, yeah. If Half-Life's just going to die with Valve, it's like, let somebody else have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, good old Half-Life. But, and then stay tuned. May 4th is going to be our first episode of another project. I'll let you talk about that.
Yes. I don't think we have a name for it. We're just calling it the Goblin Gazette Plays D&D. So it's me. I'm the DM. Cody will be playing. Then 2 other guys from our Discord. It'll be a very fun concept that we have. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything, but basically they will be reporters and will be sent on adventures, and they work for the Goblin Gazette in-game. So it's going to be a very interesting concept that we will have. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll allow us to do lots of fun little adventures. So it's a fun group of people. So I'm looking forward to that.
I only have so much more time that I can keep calling myself a D&D noob. Like, at a certain point, I'm just bad and need to read the handbook, but I'm excited to play.
It's all good, man. People have been playing Critical Role. People have been playing forever, and they still get the rules wrong all the time. So it's all good.
Those people, I believe, do it wrong on purpose. They're just like, oh, what?
I don't know.
No,
at least where I am, because I'm still catching up to them, but they just do this, like, they constantly are doing something wrong over and over and over again. You're like, oh my god, already. But yeah, I love it. It's great. But all right, I think we'll wrap this up.
All right.
A lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, people. You have a great evening, and we'll see you next time.
So long, everyone.